Hi, Russ. Hey, everybody. Oh, Heidi, you're here. Why did I think you were not going to be here? Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're muted, Heidi.
I can't be here the 26th.
Which one? Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I don't, for some reason, I thought you meant today.
Well, it's hard to keep track of everybody.
I know. Great. Well, it's just 7 o'clock, so we're gonna let give people the opportunity to kind of log in here. But welcome, everyone. It is the end of March. That somehow we've arrived here. That month happened fast.
Does not feel like the beginning of April out there. It's pretty nippy out here
Yeah.
in Western Massachusetts.
Yeah, it was really cold here today too.
Yeah, really windy.
Yeah. I am looking forward to the return of the warmer weather.
Should happen any day now.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at the weather for the rest of the week because I assume it will be cold.
I think it's supposed to warm up.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm doing some tree planting this week because in spite of the last 2 days, the temps for the month have been higher than normal. So I already have buds swelling on my trees. And so I need to plant them soon. Otherwise, the planting window will close on me.
Yeah.
And they'll be fine in spite of the cold. It'll be
Well, tomorrow we dig the holes to plant the trees in. We'll see how frozen the ground is. Hopefully it's not too bad. We'll wait till the afternoon and hopefully that won't be too bad. And then we'll try to dig up the trees because the trees are in the ground that I'm planting. So I have to dig them out of the ground and then move them and then put them in the ground at the new place.
wow.
And these are like 8-foot tall trees. So this is a big gamble.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness. That sounds like a lot of work.
But there are 2 red buds and American plums. So the pollinators should be happy if we succeed.
Wonderful.
Well, I can tell you from experience, those American plums are incredibly tough. And I transplanted one that was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 feet, and it had almost no root ball, and not the ideal time, and it's all budded out, and at the top of the tree died, but it suckers like crazy. So
Yeah. Yeah. So how many years ago was that?
no, that was just last year, last fall. I think I maybe I did it even in the summer. I mean, it was tree abuse what I did. And it's fine now. I was just checking it, and it's got leaf buds and extra little branches, and probably in a couple years it's going to be a thicket.
Good. Well, yeah, that's what I understand happens with these trees. Well, that would be good if that's what happens.
Yeah, I don't know about the red buds though.
The red buds, you have to dig a lot. They have such deep roots.
Yeah.
I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
My favorite. I think it's my favorite tree, red bud.
It is. They are beautiful.
Well, welcome everyone. It is our March. I guess we've had 2 technically, but our last one was really like the February meeting. Just February is such a short month. So this is our official sort of March Massachusetts Pollinator Network meeting. Thank you all for being here. I just want to check, I see mostly familiar faces and names. Is anyone here for the first time? You know, a little actual hand raise or a little emoji hand raise. Okay. I think everyone. Oh,
Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to. Yeah, Elizabeth Erickson invited me. And
oh, wonderful. Welcome.
My name is Jocelyn Demuth, as you can see. And my husband and I have just started a business in Coleraine, Massachusetts, selling native plants. And I am sort of the marketing end of the business. He's the plant expert. I enjoy learning, but I am not an expert. I learn from him, and I'm a teacher, and so he's a little shy. So I'm often more comfortable going out and teaching people what we've learned or what he
Well,
knows
if
mostly.
you send us your information, we'll add you to our resource list.
Okay, I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat. That'd be great.
This is our website.
Great. And do you know Marty by chance?
I do not.
Okay.
That's a cute name.
It's for the butterfly that we
Right.
well, yeah, you guys all know that.
Well, not,
Um,
I just know that because I am friends with a serious butterfly enthusiast.
Yeah, it's a very rare butterfly in Massachusetts, and they only have a couple of host plants, turtlehead being the main one. And I don't know if we'll ever get any, but it's just sort of the idea of attracting new, butterflies and fauna to your yard. We have a 3-acre meadow, and basically all the plants that we don't sell go into the meadow. And I'm hoping eventually that will be a field trip destination for the community and for students. We'll see.
That's great. Yeah, just very quickly, at last meeting, we did like kind of 10 minutes of breakout rooms, and then we had sort of network-wide updates, but we didn't really end up having a lot of time for everyone to talk to the larger group. So this time we're not going to do those smaller breakout rooms, even though I know they're kind of popular. I like them too. Instead, I think certainly because we have a reasonable enough number of people, I think what we'll do is give everyone kind of an opportunity to sort of quickly introduce yourself and just give an update about, what's going on with you, a particular challenge you're facing or initiative you're working on, or if you're totally new to all of this, you could just, tell us what brought you to the meeting today. And I think, Brucey, I saw your hand up, so I'm going to go to you. I'm going to go to you first.
I got myself in trouble. So, Brucey Moulton, Arlington, Massachusetts, co-founder of Mr. Charles Pollinator Pathways Group. We will be putting Checker Spot Farm on our Facebook page. And I love the Not Your Highway Goldenrod category on the website. Do you happen to know which goldenrod species you've got?
Yes, well, that was from last year. I need to update that, but yes, we have stiff goldenrod, we have showing goldenrod, seaside goldenrod. I think we have another variety called tall goldenrod. But yeah,
Great.
those are the three.
Great to hear.
Great. Did you want to say anything else, Brucey, or?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the other category I was supposed to address?
Just who you are and, what brings you to the meeting or something you're working on.
Oh, so Mr. Charles Pollinator Pathways Group will be hosting a talk on April 12th online. We're going to be talking about invasive plant removal, and we have an Arlington volunteer who is developing a invasives removal group and working with our new town environmental planner, David Morgan. And I'll put our Facebook link in the chat. That's how you can find out more.
Excellent. Thank you. Looking forward to that April 12th talk. All right, I'm going to just kind of go in the order of, who I see on the screen. So I'm going to go with Russ and then Heidi and then Greta.
Hi, everyone. So I have a a native edible plant nursery out in Weston. It's not a business. I give away all the plants I grow there, and I give them for planting on publicly accessible conservation lands. So if you have a project that you think I might be interested in, feel free to email me. I'll drop my email in the chat. I'm also giving a talk next week on this subject, edible native plants. It's online, and I'll drop the link to that event in the chat too.
Super.
Awesome. Thank you. Heidi?
I'm Heidi Dollard. I am doing a lot under the auspices of the Massachusetts Pollinator Network. I'm organizing this sticker project to put stickers on in commercial nurseries so that buyers can identify native plants. And I just got the stickers today. I'm very excited. I could use some more volunteers if anyone's interested. It doesn't have to be like a big commitment. You could just talk to one nursery if that's, especially if you have like an ongoing relationship with that nursery. You could put your name in the chat if you're interested. I'm also doing a bunch of stuff in Belchertown. I've moved here 4 years ago, and I was not very optimistic about how my proposals would be received, but I've been amazingly astonished at how receptive people have been. Of course, nothing has actually happened, but I think we'll get like a pollinator action document. We may get some actual major pollinator plantings done. It's pretty exciting. So definitely reason for hope.
Thank you, Heidi. I'll go Greta and Ginny and Tori. Hey, Tori.
Yes,
Jenny.
hello. So my name is Greta Jung. I'm from Lexington. I'm active in the garden club, in the civic gardening group at the garden club. We maintain the traffic islands in town. And I'm also a member of Lexington Living Landscapes. We have a couple of pollinator gardens in the planning right now that we are working on, trying to prepare the sites. And we also have right now a plant sale coming up. We work with Lexington Conservation, and if you are interested in buying, we still have a few kits left. We sell the plants in like for varieties, 12 plants for $65. So it's a very good price. So you can check that out on the town of Lexington. If you Google the pollinator plant kits, you'll get there.
Is it on the Lexington Living Landscapes website?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I can drop that in the chat. Awesome. Thanks, Greta. Ginny and Tori and Gary.
Yeah, I'm Ginny Albertson. I founded the Lunenburg Community Pollinator Habitat. We have a Facebook page, the whole 4 words. And we had a meeting today about attracting volunteers. We need more volunteers. We have so many projects going on for this year. And I'm wondering what people do to attract more helpers.
Yes, that's a great question. Actually, I think ties in very well to some of the things we'll be talking about later in the meeting too. So I should have said about halfway through the meeting, we're going to kind of switch gears from general updates to having Tori and Gary, our special guests, talking about the organizing efforts in their towns for particular, local policies. And I think that also sort of encompasses volunteer recruitment. So hopefully we can talk about that as a.
Okay.
I also I'll go find it and I'll drop it in the chat. Owen Wormser and Ginny, you might be, I don't know if you might be just out of the area, but Owen Wormser, who's part of Local Harmony, just created like a volunteer database website where people are supposed to be posting volunteer opportunities. And then you're going there to figure out where to volunteer. So I will send that to you. I'll put it in the chat and folks can take a look at it. And he's going to come and talk about it maybe at our next meeting. So
great.
Awesome. Thanks, Ginny. All right.
Thank you.
Tori, Gary, and then, we've had Jocelyn, Brucey, and then Elizabeth Erickson.
Hi, guys. My name is Tori Antonino. I live in Somerville, Massachusetts. I am a co-founder of the organization called Green and Open Somerville. And I think the feather in our cap has been passing the native planting ordinance, which I'll talk about later. But I'm also a member of the Mr. Charles Pollinator Pathway group, and I do ecological landscaping, and something that's the next Green and Open Somerville's pod. I'm muted. Is going to be around Miyawaki forests. So we're talking to developers, we're finding spaces, we're looking at ARPA funds to see if we can't get some of those to just, I think Miyawaki forests, these micro urban forests are going to be, I think, a lifeline for city dwellers and for our pollinators and other creatures who rely on our indigenous plants. Thanks. Nice to see everybody.
Thanks, Tori. It's good to see you.
Oh, hi. Was it me?
I had Gary on deck and then Elizabeth, but then you are next, Connie.
Okay. Hey, so I'm Gary Bowden. I'm listening in from Cape Cod. I'm here in Orleans, Massachusetts, and I'm one of 9 founders of the Pollinator Pathway Cape Cod initiative we started in December of 2020. And I'll talk a bit about our resolution that we passed here in Orleans and we're promoting with other towns on the Cape. I'm also a master gardener, and I guess I'll just share in terms of the volunteer question. I was really motivated today. I'm on the board of the Master Gardeners for the Cape, and we went to a meeting of our new class of Master Gardeners. And I said 1 or 2 things in my opening remarks about native plants and the Pollinator Pathway, Cape Cod, and the and Massachusetts Pollinator Network. And I had 6 people come up and talk to me, and mostly the younger end of our new class, excited about what we're doing, asking more about it, and wanting to know how to get involved. So I think there's hope. It's just really how to connect with people. And of course, talking to Master Gardeners is a great, they're already, sort of believers, but they weren't aware of it. So it was really good to know, to be able to spread the news of what we're all trying to do. So thanks, Rosemary, for having us today, and I'll talk some more later.
Wonderful. Thanks, Gary. Elizabeth, and then Connie, and then Gary Phillips. Oh, you're muted, Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Erickson, and I live in the little town of Coleraine, Massachusetts, and which is the town where Marty DeGoberto lives and where Jocelyn and her husband Chris live. Just moved to 2 years ago, and I'm a master gardener. I've been working with Greening Greenfields Pollinator Committee, we've been doing a variety of educational events locally that have been attracting 100 people over the couple of years. And we last fall did a project where we planted one of Evan Abramson's large pollinator kits and a small sidewalk kit at Just Roots Farm, and had about 15 people come and plant with us and take home some of Amy Pulley's kits from Wing and a Prayer Nursery, which is great. And right now I'm engaged in putting together kind of a pollinator pathway website for Greenfield. So just have all the public garden, we're identifying and putting photos together of all the public gardens in Greenfield as a space where people can sign up to volunteer to work on those gardens. And so this could work in nicely with what I just learned that Owen is doing, which is great. I'm also very excited that to have just learned that Jocelyn and Chris have a new native plant nursery in Coleraine, because I haven't known any other native plant enthusiasts in my town before. So I think that's going to take off. So it's exciting for me. Our project, what we're doing is on Earth Day, we're going to have an invasive plant removal at an elementary school, so kids can play in the woods adjacent to the school playground. I just spent the day trying to put together a request to get people to sign up to participate in this Earth Day, cleaning out the brambles so the kids can play in the woods.
Nice. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yep.
Connie, and then Gary.
Okay. I am very, very new to this whole thing, and I am very impressed. I have a large backyard that last year I decided I didn't want to mow, and I thought I could put in native plants. I've run in, first off, I don't even know what native plants to get yet, but I ran into an issue in that there is a lot of ledge on my land. And some places I only have like 3 or 4 inches of topsoil. So I don't know if it would be doable or not.
It's doable. There's plants that will grow on in very, yeah.
Okay. I need to get a list of those.
You could
'cause-
just, if you want, you can just put your email in the chat and I'll
Okay,
take it offline.
I will. Thank you. Yeah, so, I don't have much money and I'm 80 years old, so I can't do a lot of work, but I try to plug away at it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Gary, and then Miriam.
Hey, I'm Gary Phillips. I'm an ambassador in Northborough, Massachusetts, and I've been volunteering with Freddie Gillespie, which many of you may know, in Southborough, learning from that group. I have a couple projects in Northborough that I'm doing. I've got a big pollination garden at my house going, and I have also organizing a community pollination garden, and organized a big knowledge sharing outreach, gave away free native plant winter sow kits, including the soil propagation containers and seed envelopes. So we've got 2,000 milk jugs around town.
Wow.
And each seed pack had seed for 2 containers. So they'll keep one and then donate one back to the garden that I'm installing. So that's how we're doing it with no budget.
Good, great idea.
But honestly, I'm a little depressed right now and deflated because I had another idea to install a meadow adjacent to my house. There's a strip of town property, and I'm in a McMansion neighborhood, and everyone supported it except for one family. They complained, and I got a call from the city saying I can't install it because they had given me permission, not that they don't support the idea of a native plant meadow, but they didn't want to be in the middle of 2 neighbors and trying to mitigate that. So they told me that I couldn't do it. So I'm a little deflated these days about that. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do about it. The town, because it's town property, I've been mowing it for 2 years, but they committed to mowing it once a year in the fall with their bush hog. So I might go the spiteful route, which I think is the right thing to do, but I know it sounds horrible because the one family, they're worried about ticks because they've got kids and they don't want Lyme disease. They spray their yard, but this property it's 300 feet from their house. And I reached out to Xerces and got expert knowledge from them. But by the time I got the feedback from them about where the ticks live and what to do about them, this family had gone to the city and put that complaint in. So I didn't even get to share what I learned from Xerces. So it was just unfortunate how it played out. But my plan A is to mow close to the road so the neighborhood still looks tidy, but the back part that was going to be the meadow, which is like 50 feet from the road, I'll stop mowing it and let it be a meadow with non-native grass, and then let the town mow it in the fall. He also said I'm welcome to sprinkle seeds. I can't use a shovel and transplant anything, but I can sprinkle seeds. So plan B would be to sprinkle the little blue stem seeds and the native seeds that I collected from Southborough and see what happens. I think the little blue stem will outcompete the non-native grass, especially. I just read a book from what's it called? Garden Evolution, Meadow Evolution, the guy from Philadelphia. And it said that if you mow like in June to take out the native and then don't mow the rest of summer, that will favor the warm season grasses. So I could do that for a couple of years and I think it would take over. And then my plan C is to, adjacent to the pollination garden and putting in a mile from here, there's a big field. And that's my plan C, is to just put my efforts to install a meadow there. But I've got 3 calls into different people in the town and they haven't bothered to call me back yet. So it's just been a tough week.
I'm sorry to hear that, Gary. But I know you've invested a lot of time and effort into trying to make that happen. So I do hope that there's a way forward there. And yeah, and we talked a little bit by email, but obviously feel free to reach out if you ever feel like workshopping something, because we have a couple of groups where, you know, we could convene and talk about that. So thank you for sharing. Miriam, Kate, and Miranda are on deck, and we are getting close to 7:30. So I want to give everyone like an opportunity to speak a little bit. So maybe we could keep it short, and then hopefully we'll get to everybody.
Yeah, I will keep it short. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thanks.
My name is Miriam. I have a very small organization called Pollinator Networks. My background actually is in art and public art, and I'm also a teacher. I started a pollinator garden in Lower Alston as a public art project. And together with a friend, we got actually quite a bit of funding out of the Harvard Alston Public Realm Fund, and we've managed to grow a network in Lower Alston. She's much more of an expert than I am, but I'm learning, and I just, I'm here to meet other people with the same interest, to share information, to learn, and yeah, that's basically what I'm here for. I'll drop the website in the chat, and I'm really enjoying hearing about this group. I'm so glad I found you. So thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. I found your website recently, so I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, I think I'm next.
Yes.
I'm Kate McDonough from Conway, Massachusetts, and former nursery manager from at Nasami Farm, which is operated by Native Plant Trust. And in my retirement now, trying to get a native plant pollinator garden installed in front of our town offices, which it's been a bit of a, 2 steps forward, 2 steps backward. we got approval from the select board. We got some funding from the open space committee, but then unfortunately, the guy who's in charge of the highway department is also responsible for the maintenance of this property and is being a challenge to work with. So anyway, keeping fingers crossed that we might be able to get something done, but there's also going to be some ramp construction on the site, so we have to wait. So anyway, that's sort of one of the bigger things. I wanted to mention also, I recently proofread an upcoming publication for Wild Seed Project. If any of you aren't familiar with them, they're an amazing organization based in Maine. But anyway, they're going to be coming out with a guide on native ground covers. And on that subject, I just wanted to mention, Connie had said about plants for very, very small soil horizon, and there definitely are some, in particular, ground covers that could probably handle those conditions. And I'd be happy to fill you in through email. And Gary, I don't know if you've already thought about this, but I wondered if the neighbors would be more accommodating if you said you would mow a wide strip along the meadow where their property is, but Just one thing. You probably
Yeah,
already.
that was the plan. It's kind of like trying to convince an anti-vaxxer to get a vaccine.
Yeah, I hear you. Anyway, I'll pass it on to Miranda.
Hi there, I'm actually go by Mindy, and I had contacted my local high school science teacher to ask how I could get my town of Andover, Massachusetts, onto the pollinator pathway. And she put me in touch with Maria, who then put me in touch with Rosemary. So I have been working to convert my yard, pretty close to, well, my whole property is about 3 acres, but the area that I'm trying to have some control over is probably about 1 acre. And so I've joined National Wildlife Federation and of course Doug Talami's Homegrown National Park, and then I've recently joined this organization as well. So I just kind of I feel as though I'm doing my part on my property, but I do want to be able to share information and join with like-minded people to talk about things I've learned and learn from them. So that's why I'm here tonight.
Thanks, Miranda.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna get to some other folks, and then we will have to transition at some point. And if I don't get to you, I do sincerely apologize. And if that happens, please introduce yourself in the chat. Okay. I'm going to go to Pam, and then Sarah and Vivian.
Hi, I'm Pam Phillips. I'm in Watertown, Mass. Our little group is called Friends of Bees, and we've been slowly working on becoming a bee city. Mostly we're doing the steps. So our DPW has been suggesting places for us to do pollinator gardens. And also Watertown Community Gardens has also been working on doing pollinator planting. So that's kind of where we are right now. And I'm interested in hearing about doing the actual ordinance part. So that's my main interest for this meeting.
Excellent. I think I said, oh, Sarah and then Vivian.
Hi. I'm Sarah Barabee. I'm in Bolton, and I'm working with a group of folks in town to start our first native pollinator garden. And I think what I've heard from other folks, just trying to kind of get the backing to be able to do it has been interesting. We finally got a spot in town that we are allowed to place one in. This past winter, we did have, we gave out seeds and winter sow projects. So I'm hoping that we're able to continue with those volunteers. We kind of told them to do, 50-50 if they could plant 50% of the plants they grow in their own yards, and then give us 50% back to put into the native garden that we're developing. So this way we could kind of get that fractured across the whole town.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Sounds great. Okay, I'm going to go to Vivian, and then I think we're going to need to. I apologize. We're going to need to transition to talking about the ordinance and the pollinator-friendly resolution. I want to make sure we leave enough room for that. During that conversation, if you haven't introduced yourself, please just give your name and where you're calling from. But Vivian, did you want to do our last introduction?
Sure. I'm involved in several ways, mostly with Operation Pollination, which is a project locally of the Upper Housatonic Valley National Heritage Area, known as Housatonic Heritage. We cover a part of Western Mass and Northwestern Connecticut. And this is an initiative that was started by the National Park Service back in 2018 and has about 15 of the 55 national heritage areas involved, and also reaches out in another way with Rotary clubs. very inventive collaboration with Rotary clubs. We're not yet doing that here in our area, but a number of Operation Pollination efforts in the Midwest are involved with Rotary clubs. So that's something to think about for the future. Currently, our Operation Pollination in the Upper Housatonic River Valley is working on a new adult education course at Berkshire Community College in collaboration with the lifelong learning adult education program and the nature trail at the college. And the project is called Honoring Our Indigenous Heritage, Native People, Plants, and Pollinators. And we're thrilled to say that Russ Cohn is going to be one of our presenters and also lead a walk and that will be in June. And in September, he's going to lead a walk on the nature trail. And we're really looking forward to that. We have two Indigenous women scheduled to speak also. That's in the process of being confirmed. And also Evan Abramson is going to talk about the plants and pollinators aspect in the course, and also lead another walk in September. So we're very excited about this a new way of reaching out to a new audience, which we hope will lead to other things. Lastly, I chair the Great Barrington Agricultural Commission, and we introduced the first pollinator-friendly community resolution to town meeting, which was voted in by acclamation back in 2016. So we've been trying to work with other communities who have reached out to us since then to help on pollinator-friendly community resolutions, especially those working with town meeting types of government.
Thank you, Vivian. That all sounds very exciting. When you get a chance, I don't know if there's a link that you could drop in the chat, or if not, if you could email me some of those events, the information about them, that'd be fantastic. I can follow up with you afterwards.
Yeah, I'll probably follow up in a few weeks about the course. Once it's going to go, it'll be posted here by the college, and then I'll forward that link to you. At this point, it's in the pre-posting stage.
Excellent.
But thank you thank you very much. I can certainly send you the pollinator-friendly community resolution, but I think Peggy had that posted for a long time on the Western Mass Pollinator Network. So
yes,
you inherited that, so that you should already have.
Yes, yeah, we have it. And when we launch our new website, it will have that information too, which we hope to do soon.
And we also collaborated with the Conway School on the Great Barrington Pollinator Action Plan, which is where Evan actually got his training as a graduate student. And we've continued being in touch with him ever since then. And we've been busy trying to implement the Pollinator Action Plan, which is work for many years, but we have some exciting things coming up this year to continue our work there.
Awesome. Thank you. And to folks I didn't get to, please put your information in the chat. I'd like to hear your story. Okay, I want to make sure we have time. We're going to transition to talking about two exciting local policies. Gary was part of passing the pollinator-friendly resolution in Orleans, which is the first to be passed on the Cape. Super exciting. And then Tori, as Tori mentioned, is co-founder of Green and Open Somerville and was part of passing the native plant ordinance there, which is, I think, the first of its kind, like, period, in addition to being first in the state. So yeah, Gary, if you wanted to sort of give a quick synopsis, and then Tori, you can give a quick synopsis, and then folks, we'll just open it up for questions.
Great. Okay, well, I'll start then. As I mentioned, I'm from Cape Cod, town of Orleans. We're about a 5,000 person town. And plus, tens of thousands of more people in the summer. But we have an active group. We've formed our group based really on 3 or 4 garden clubs, several conservation organizations in the surrounding towns around Orleans. And I'm a master gardener, as I mentioned, but also with a civic organization that does beautification projects in town and fundraising to support that. So we when we formed, we had, we really bought into the principles of the Pollinator Pathway Northeast group, and we knew we were short on resources. And so we really aligned ourselves with them, and with their help, they host our website. And through their many, many resources they have, we sort of formed our charter for what we were going to do. And we had a pretty aggressive charter. The first 6 months, we really wanted to get our name out there. We wanted to start to educate people. And we knew we had the summer coming on, so we targeted several events over the summer where we could promote this concept of planting natives, reducing your lawn, using fewer chemicals, and leaving the leaves. We tried to come up with a really simple mantra that people could buy into. But one of our activities was to do some advocacy, and we realized early on we needed to do that. So we did use the pollinator, and I encourage all of you to look at it. The pollinatorpathway.org website has a great advocacy section where they have both state initiatives, like things like the neonic legislation, but they also inspired us by the number of town ordinances they had and town resolutions. So we actually, at the time, I think Somerville's was even up there, and we looked at that and others and decided that we would focus on it this last fall. So we began by we were fortunate we had a select board member from the town who was on our group because he had formerly been president of the Orleans Conservation Trust and believed in this initiative as much as anybody. But we decided we would work with our Conservation Commission and our Agricultural Committee of the town committees and brief their leadership, brief their membership, get them on board. And that was an easy task, quite frankly. We then worked with, we did then bring in the town. We have a DPW head. I'm sad to hear the person relaying the story about their non-motivated DPW or highways person. We lucked out. Our DPW person is a beekeeper, so he really got it and understood what we were doing. But then so we had this debate about should it be non-binding and should we focus on, like Somerville did, and you're going to hear a lot more about native planting. And what we concluded was our mission was really to educate and advocate, not and support an existing town code that already prohibited or severely limited the use of herbicides on any town property. So we didn't want to compete with that or really even contradict that in any way. It was working. The town select board was following it. We have a great problem out here with Eversource power lines cutting across the Cape, and a lot of towns are very keyed into Eversource's seemingly indiscriminate use of herbicides. So we really focused on our education needs. And so we did a non-binding resolution that created Orleans as a pollinator-friendly community and really stressed the need for the town through its properties, but also to encourage the residents through their properties to adopt pollinator-friendly practices. And we really highlighted very simply the 4 principles I just talked about: planting natives, using less chemicals, having less lawn, and leaving the leaves. It sailed through the 2 committees. We then brought it to the town. They had a few minor tweaks about our language, which we sort of pre-worked out. And then we went to the select board, and we went to the select board meeting in January of this year. It was a really nice conversation. The cooperation we received from everybody was outstanding. I mean, it was really much easier than I thought. The outcome has actually been encouraging, and I think this is really what it comes down to, and this is what we'd hoped for. We had a big project coming on in town related to sewer construction, and we were able to use this non-binding resolution to make it clear to the town that we expected all native planting to be done around these big sewer pumping stations and installations they had done in various places in town. And it has worked. I mean, they had to send back plans to the construction firm that was working on the project. They've consulted with us. They're coming back with probably a nearly all native. I think there'll be some exceptions for some evergreen coverage they need. But we also saw that it worked. There was a big discussion of selective herbicide use for weed control in some very specific places in town. And we got the town to use OMRI-rated organic materials as opposed to using something stronger that they probably would have used. So it has worked. And then the last thing was a citizen involvement, which happened as a result of it. was we had a citizen in town who got motivated seeing us and seeing what he'd done. And he's filed his own citizen petition to try to get the town to limit. We have a big problem of developers, home developers in particular, clear cutting lots of mini trees on beautiful acre plus properties to build their new 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house. So he has been motivated to recognizing what that does to habitat in a community, and is hopeful that he will get the select board's attention with that. So I think we met our goal of trying to motivate both the town and also try to motivate the citizens. And it's really, as we head into this upcoming summer when the town is really active, we're doing a lot more outreach and using the resolution as part of our education material to educate the town and the citizens and many visitors. We have a lot of visitors. We have very popular garden tours and conservation events through the summer, and we'll be promoting it there. We didn't choose to go to the town meeting, and I heard the woman just speak about town meeting. We thought we could have. Frankly, our town meetings are 200 to 300 people who come. The issues are often seemingly pre-vetted, and we just didn't see it as an opportunity for debate. We actually thought that the select board meetings, and particularly those on Zoom now, have actually had a lot more attention paid to them than we would have thought in the past. So we knew we had a good audience there, so we chose to just go to our select board. How's that, Rosemary? Is that you shared on your website our resolution, so it's available. And I also just encourage you to look at the pollinatorpathway.org /advocacy, and they have a town ordinance and resolution section, which we found really helpful to craft language. And our hope is that beyond Orleans, we are now sharing it. We've gone from our town to we have 17 affiliated organizations now across the Cape, mostly land trusts, conservation groups, and garden clubs. And we're working with them and encouraging the other, I think there's 15 other major towns on the Cape to consider that. And we're hearing feedback that a few of them are talking about it. So we hope to see a similar pollinator-friendly resolution beginning to be looked at in the other towns on the Cape.
Thank you, Gary. Tori, do you want to share a quick synopsis? And then I'm just going to open it up for folks to ask questions of either of you. Oh.
Okay, here I am.
There you are.
So, okay, I'm going to try to synop. So this kind of all started in 2017 when one of our large parks, Lincoln Park, was being redone. And at that time, Doug, I feel like all roads lead back to Doug Tallamy, or for me anyway. This is sort of, I used to be a mow and blow landscaper. I worked out in Weston and Lincoln and Lexington, blowing the leaves away, putting mulch on in the spring and mowing. And once I found out, like, oh my God, I'm killing the planet, thinking I'm like, I'm out in the world and the sun is shining and look at all the good things I'm doing. Anyway, nobody converted like the newly converted. So once I found that out, I just went on a tear and started going to meetings and paying attention to the landscape. And so Lincoln Park was one of the first, hadn't redone a park of this size in a very long time. It's a 5-acre park, and noticing that there were not many native plants on the plant list, found a city councilor, or then one of our aldermen, to put in a board order requesting that all of the plants in Lincoln Park be native. And so, which is one way you can try to get things done, which is to ally yourself with a city councilor, board, selectman, board member, and they can put in board orders, which doesn't mean the city has to listen, but it's just this sort of recommendation. And then the city has to report back to the council. And so it started from there. And then we found our ally. We found Katiana Ballantyne. She's a she used to be a city councilor. She is now the mayor of Somerville. Yay. So she became our champion. And we started presenting at the different city council meetings, the open space, energy, and environment, started, gathering our group of advisors and just kind of getting the word out. We used, I mentioned the CPA funds, Community Preservation Act funds. We built a pollinator meadow with those funds, and just started, like, as we were educating and trying to get allies, we just started planting. Like, there was a bunch of mulch at City Hall, and I was like, we got to do something. So we just started doing demonstration gardens at the same time doing this education. But so finally in like 2018, we weren't getting any movement from the city. So Katiana Ballantyne put in another board order, which specified to the city solicitor to start drafting a native planting ordinance. Well, that languished in committee for 8 months. And then Katiana Ballantyne, she said, guys, just write one. Just write one and get the city to respond. So we gathered around Renee Scott's computer. I forget what our template ordinance was. If I remember, I'll put it in the chat. But we just started writing. A lot of it there are many whereases, we are in the 6th mass extinction, and whereas our pollinators pollinate 70% of our food, etc. Whereas, therefore, we, introduce this ordinance. So we asked Katiana, like, well, what should we do? And she's just like, well, ask for what you want. And I'm like, well, let's just shoot for the moon. So we said 100% native plants on all city property, save for our streetscapes, and we'll settle for like 70% of trees and rights of ways to be native. And we thought that was going to be a negotiation point, but the city had really no appetite. The administration had no appetite for doing this. So unfortunately, instead of like the response we wanted, which was to start a negotiation, they came out with a 6-page white paper on why native plants don't work. So it's like, we were so like emboldened by, we're just gonna write it, and then we're gonna have a conversation, and then we're gonna do it. And it's just working with like what people have been taught and what they have, like the pride of what you think, kind of being challenged on that. Like, oh, really? It's like, planting geraniums and marigolds and mums aren't like the best thing we could be doing. So that was the slog. And I appreciate everyone here who is in that slog, getting that, like, Gary, my heart goes out to you. Don't give up, please. Just feeling this like, is this like, I presented all the evidence. We presented all the evidence. Native plants do work. And the arguments, of course, it's not the same soil anymore, and it's not the same conditions, and we're in climate change. Anyway, doesn't matter. We persisted. Just keep going. And finally, we worked with the city. We made compromises, and we got it passed. But it took a long time. So just the takeaway for me, if I had to do this again, would to not have the burden just be on Katiana Ballantyne. It would have been saying, okay, I need 3 city councilors, making sure there was no quorum of any subcommittees or anything, and just like, meeting with each one individually, and just doubling our efforts to talk to, the Somerville Community Garden, and just really make more effort to connect, because at certain points we were just kind of our own little island of activists. Like, so yeah, so that's if I posted the ordinance, it's basically for city property. Our next step is for private property. There's also something called the green score, which is a landscaping metric for all new development. And we were able to get, in order to get your metric, native plants is one box you can tick. But so that's another way to hit at private property. And there's other ways too. Freddie Gillespie has some interesting, like for a new project to come online, it has to go through the Conservation Commission, which will then require all 100% native plants on the development. So anyway, that's my pitch. And like, just keep going. And I feel like now we've sort of reached I think we're at that tipping point where we have people who are excited about it, who know about it, who are ready to get it done. And I'm proud of the ordinance, but I'm still disappointed in it, and it needs more work. So do it better.
Have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you got it past it all, given that you did, had that level of resistance, which, yeah, it's unfortunate that there was that level of sort of opposition. And Gary, I know I want to open up to questions from other people, but Gary, I know, something that it seems like you didn't have a lot of opposition, although I know there were some concerns, but a lot of that was because of, you'd been doing all of this outreach ahead of time, right? Like leading up to that.
Right. A much smaller community, so a lot more was possible, but exactly. We had talked to 3 of the 5 select board members. We had the former chair of the Conservation Commission was on our group. She represented us before the Conservation Commission. Just nursing along those relationships. Our civic organization I'm a part of has always been a big funder of activities around town. So we already have sort of gotten the ear of that DPW chief and the select board, because they like to count on our money that it's private funds. We raise as a nonprofit and provide. So yes, it's really a lot about nursing along relationships before you get too far down the road or as part of what you're doing. And that's no doubt easier in a small town. We were very much benefited by having a beekeeper who understood what we were doing and not a highwayman who wanted to pave everything. It was just our luck. And I know that some of the other towns are worried about that. I've already heard from towns who feel like they've got an unfriendly DPW chief, and they're going to have to do a lot more work on the other end.
Yep. I do want to open it up for questions, and I don't want to put anyone like totally on the spot, but I did extend an invitation to a couple people who I know in their towns are working on native plant ordinances. So Owen or Suzanne, if you wanted to speak up, you can, but you don't have
to. Hi. I don't even know where the raise hand button is. It's been a while since I Zoomed. Can I say something, or?
Of course, yes, please. And then, yeah.
I'm really excited and inspired by what you both have done. And Tori, I'm right with you. I'm a new convert, I'm basically didn't even go outside until my husband planted a pollinator garden. I'm like, what are all these butterflies here for? They explained it to me. But I've done a lot of advocacy for clean water and recycling in towns that wanted neither. And there's the best way to get stuff past an unfriendly audience is get the school involved. When we got the plastic ban bag ordinance passed in Chelmsford, we did it by meeting with the Eco Club and getting those students to come to the microphone and speak passionately and eloquently about why it was important to them. And that really shamed a lot of the people who normally at town meeting would have been rude and just, slammed it down because they were so passionate. There really is a formula to getting some of these things done. I also dressed up in all plastic bags and read a poem, which caught the attention of the media and Facebook and the Lowell Sun. And so a lot of it, there's an element of theater in getting this done. And that shines a spotlight on those selectmen who would rather just you go away or just want to just pass something for their developer friend and would rather nobody knew about it. But if there's some theater in the meeting, now they can't. And the other thing we did, and this was a selectman told us to do this, and she was absolutely right. We wrote letters and had our friends email the selectmen individually asking them to support this. And she said, you know, nobody ever emails us. And when we get an email, we're kind of like shocked. And it really trains our eye on that issue. So, you know, I haven't done anything with native plants and advocacy, but I've had a formula that I follow that seems to work. And I'm glad you guys were both able to bring it to fruition.
Thanks, Jocelyn. Owen, I saw you unmute. Owen, I should mention, is a city councilor, in fact, in East Hampton.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, Rosemary. And just really glad to be here to hear all the buzz about pollinators and native plant friendly initiatives. So my name is Owen Zarrett, not Owen Wormser. That is someone I need to get in touch with locally. Interested in a couple initiatives here at East Hampton, Massachusetts. We're in Western Massachusetts. The major one being introducing and passing a native plant ordinance similar to Somerville. And thank you so much to the pioneers who spoke earlier, Gary and Tori, for the work that you've done, your municipalities. You know, interested in kind of building on the language that was introduced in Somerville. Obviously would want to include municipal properties, but to continue kind of going beyond that, as Tori indicated, and include in our first draft new commercial developments and potentially industrial developments as well. You know, looking at things like no-mow zones and obviously requiring a certain percentage of native plants. And so part of the reason I'm here is certainly just to kind of to listen in and gain knowledge, to listen and learn, but also to kind of put out an invitation to, you know, all the experts here to get in touch with me. I dropped my email into the chat. It's ozarrett@easthamptonma.gov. Just looking for input. I've had a good conversation with our city planner. He's certainly open to this. And I think generally among the city council, there's a political appetite for this as well, but I want the language to be well informed. And I'm a very much part-time city legislator and a healthcare professional. And while I have a passion for supporting and expanding our pollinator pathways, I need the experts to weigh in. So I encourage people to email me. There's also a resident educational component that I'd like to get into, but I don't want to monopolize too much more of the conversation here. But please reach out. Tori, I'd love to talk with you offline. And I think I saw that there was someone here from Greenfield that was talking about doing an ordinance. So I'd love to team up too and not reinvent the wheel, but kind of do some work in Western Mass. Because I think that, you know, I'm surprised Northampton hasn't done anything yet, but I think regional grassroots or native plant roots initiatives are great, especially when people work together. Yeah, looking forward to hopefully hearing from you all, collaborating with some of the people on this call, and coming back next time to share some of our progress. The one thing I just wanted to appeal to the group about is the one biggest concern from our planner was cost, and they were worried that we would scare away developers by doing native plant ordinances and creating costs for them that native plants would cost substantially more than non-natives that people are using right now in landscape planting. So I would love it if some of the experts here could actually weigh in, because my suspicion is that that's not true. And if folks could please email me just to give me some more information about cost aspects of native plantings, that would be really helpful to reduce kind of that barrier. So thank you so much for the time, and looking forward to sitting in more of these meetings and working with you all.
Thank you, Owen. Tori or Gary, did you want to respond to that?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, Owen, I'd love to follow up, and who I think I have if you put your email in here, you know, cost comes up, and it all depends on you know, native plants can cost more at specialty native nurseries, but it's like, I want to say it's, you know, it's kind of negligible. And the other thought is, if you're doing like a developer is going to do a large project, sometimes you like the use of plugs and smaller trees are going to, like, not only will it give you the most bang for your buck, but you'll be able to do have like a lot of biodiversity, and you can plant plugs close together. And maybe the first year it's like, oh geez, we wish we had planted gallon sizes or like large trees, but in a couple of years you're actually going to have a healthier, more robust planting. So I definitely would push back on that. And you know, oftentimes it's like, well, native, you know, nurseries aren't going to carry native plants. Well, they will start carrying native plants if we start asking, if we start legislating and passing policy.
Awesome. Thank you, Tori. That's why we're doing our nursery outreach campaign. So if that's of interest to anyone, we are actively recruiting volunteers to do nursery outreach. Suzanne, I saw you came off camera. Did you want to chime in?
Sure, I'll just be brief because the ending to our story hasn't been written yet. And in fact, the ordinance is now sitting on a lawyer's desk. So it might be a little while till I have an update. I'm in Braintree, by the way. I would say we're a few years behind some of you other folks in terms of our towns and our community's understanding of the importance of native plants. But we're catching up quickly. And, you know, through being involved with this program, I was looking for a way to scale up some of the things that we were doing at the community garden in Braintree. And as it happened, there was a town councilor who was looking to beef up our tree ordinance. And so kind of similar to what Gary was talking about, I think, with his with the sewer project, trying to figure out how we could combine interests. And so I approached this town councilor and asked whether, you know, she would consider making her writing into her ordinance about tree replacement to specify native trees. As it stands now, it requires native trees on town property and if I have this correct, for businesses within anywhere within 20 feet of public way. We didn't come out swinging for the fence. I think Tori used that expression last fall when she presented, because I think we have to start a little bit smaller here in Braintree, but hopefully this will give us a vehicle to get out. This town council understands she needs to be, we all need to be vocal about it and get out there and present, and it'll give us a good opportunity to educate folks and let people in and use it as a stepping stone for something else.
It's very, I mean, I've been very excited by like the discovery that multiple towns, and you know, obviously connect with you, Suzanne, and then Owen, and then I have also learned of a group in Worcester. I don't think a representative from that group is here tonight. Are all working on native plant ordinances, which is amazing. So I'm so happy to see multiple people kind of in the same virtual space, and I do hope that people can connect outside of the meeting too, to kind of, you know, exchange ideas and make some progress.
I'll just say one other quick thing, if I may. Our Sustainable Braintree will be hosting Blue Stem Natives coming up on April 14th. I know some folks have mentioned them in the past. So if you're interested in hearing from them, you can find information. I'll link our website in the chat.
That's great. Thank you.
Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Tori. So Braintree is my hometown.
Great.
And I don't know what do you call them? Selectmen?
Town councilors.
Which town councilor it is, but is it Dan Flaherty's wife?
I know her well, but no.
Not
it's actually she's now the council president, Meredith Berica.
okay. Well, anyway, we should connect because I have friends from Sustainable Braintree, Mike Kavanaugh, Dave Spartalozzi. I don't know if any of those names ring a bell, but let's connect because, you know, sometimes, I mean, Braintree will always have a place in my heart. So
That's awesome. Thank you. You know, you made me think of one other thing, and I'm sorry. You know, I think another important aspect of this was is actually getting involved and making sure you have the right people on town council. And so that in some ways means, you know, getting out of the garden and going around door to door and knocking in your neighborhood and getting people to vote for the right folks in town.
That's a very good point. The people matter. Great. We are approaching 8:15, which is sort of the new time that we typically end our meetings. Do other folks have questions before we move towards signing off? Okay, great. Well, yeah, it's very interesting to hear both of your stories, and you know they share similarities, but in some ways are also quite different. And so I think it's interesting to hear kind of about those local policies passing in, you know, somewhat different contexts and some of the different challenges that there are. Really briefly, with the last just couple of minutes that we have, I was wondering, Gary, if you could just share a little bit more about some of the outreach that you did ahead of time. I know we talked about it in our CPR meeting a few weeks ago, and I feel like it's just an impressive outreach story. And yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not recalling exactly what we talked about. I mean, I think the thing was a lot of this came about so quickly, I think because we were fortunate to have a group of leaders on our group that had a lot of connections to all these very important individual committees and select board members on town that we were going to have to interface with and convince. But it took a lot of individual meetings and a lot of individual follow-up. You know, I mean, I think I've said what I can say, really, Rosemary. It's just a lot of talking with the right people and bringing along people who will listen to others. We're also, we have, you know, we're surrounded by water here on the Cape. So we were able to connect water issues with this, with the pollinator issues as well. And, you know, having the water community behind you on the Cape is a big deal and a big help. They didn't want chemicals near the water issue. We didn't want chemicals for the pollinators. You know, we found our mutual alliances and used them. You know, our conservation trust is a very powerful organization here in land acquisition and land preservation and land maintenance. And having their support was critical in this because their leadership is just critical and recognized by the town select board. So, you know, I hear what the last two speakers were just talking about are just critical. And the bigger your town is, the bigger challenge that is to know who those players are.
Yeah, I remember that, just hearing you talk about kind of all that coalition building and how important that was. Great. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Gary, and thank you, Tori, for being here and for sharing your stories. And thank you, everyone else, for coming out tonight. This was a great discussion. And I look forward to seeing everybody, hopefully, at our April meeting, which is the 26th. And our special guest at that meeting is going to be folks from the Native Pollinator Task Force in the Metro West area. So the new chair and another one of the committee members will be here, and they'll be talking about their ambassador program, which I believe Gary Phillips is a part of. So we'll be hearing more about that. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It was great to see you.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Have a good night.
Good night. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.